200 years ago, enslaved builders in Louisiana and mountain families in Appalachia independently invented the same solution to the same problem: staying cool without electricity. One design became the shotgun house. The other became the Dogtrot. And in the year 2004, one architect in Houston did something nobody had done before. He smashed them together into a single floor plan. He called it the Trot. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that hybrid looks like, what it actually costs to build one in 2026, and why this forgotten design might be smarter than half the tiny homes being marketed to you right now. Before we get into it, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because I'm building a full series breaking down every classic American floor plan and what it costs to bring back today, and you do not want to miss the rest of them. Let's start with the shotgun house, because most people think they know what it is, and they're only half right. A shotgun house is a narrow rectangular home, usually 12 to 14 feet wide, with rooms lined up one behind the other in a straight row, front door to back door, no hallway. The name comes from an old bit of folklore that you could fire a shotgun through the front door and the pellets would fly straight through every room and out the back without hitting a wall. Here is the part almost nobody covers. Architectural historian John Michael Vlach traced the shotgun house back to the Yoruba people of West Africa through Saint-Domingue, which is present-day Haiti, and into New Orleans with free and enslaved black builders following the Haitian Revolution. By the 1880s, the design was showing up in Houston as rental housing built for former slaves and working-class black residents. So this is not just an old house shape. It is one of the only major American architectural styles with roots that trace directly back to Africa, carried across an ocean, and adapted to a brand new climate along the way. And the design was genius out of pure necessity. No air conditioning, no electricity, just physics. The front and back doors line up so a straight breeze can cut through the entire house. The house sits raised a few feet off the ground on piers, so air flows underneath and cools the floor. Deep porches on the front block direct sun before it ever hits a wall. Every single feature exists to fight Gulf Coast heat with zero energy cost, which is exactly why the style survived over a century of Louisiana and Texas summers with no mechanical help whatsoever. Now flip over to Appalachia and the Dogtrot house, which solved the same heat problem with a completely different move. A Dogtrot is two separate enclosed structures, sometimes called pens or cabins, connected by an open-air breezeway, all covered by one continuous roof. Picture two little houses under a single shared roofline, with a hallway between them that has no walls, just open-air front to back. The origin story here is almost sweet. Families would build one small log cabin, and as the household grew, instead of adding onto that same structure, they built a second cabin a few feet away and connected both with a shared roof. The gap in between became the coolest spot on the property, so cool that dogs would trot through it to escape the heat, which is exactly where the name comes from. One side of the house was typically for sleeping, the other for cooking and dining, and the open breezeway in the middle became the true living room of the home, the place where the family actually spent their evenings, because it was the only spot with a cross breeze running through it at all times. This is folk architecture in the purest sense. Nobody drew these up in an office. Generations of trial and error on hot porches produced the smartest floor plan available with the materials on hand. So you have two totally different solutions to the exact same problem. The shotgun uses a straight line of rooms and aligned doors to funnel a breeze. The Dogtrot uses a literal gap in the middle of the house to create one. For over a century, nobody combined them, because on paper they seem like opposite strategies, one closed and linear, one open and split. Then in 2004, architect Brett Zamore, a Rice University graduate student, designed a small house in Houston's East End for a client named David Kaplan. Zamore took the narrow footprint and aligned openings of a shotgun house and merged them with the open-air breezeway concept of a Dogtrot, using sliding louvered panels on the long sides of the house that could fully open the living room to the outdoors. He called it the Trot, literally shotgun plus Dogtrot, and it is still considered one of the more clever pieces of regionally inspired architecture to come out of Texas this century. And here is the number that made this thing famous in Houston architecture circles, a number I'm going to give you in full detail near the end of this video, because once you hear what this house actually cost to build and what the going rate is today in 2026, you're going to want to know exactly where to find the plans. The Trot keeps the narrow shotgun proportions, so the house catches cross breezes down its long axis. But instead of a straight run of enclosed rooms, Zamor opens up the living space with those sliding louvered walls. So the home can behave like a shotgun when it is closed up and like a Dogtrot when it is thrown open. On hot Houston summer days, you slide the panels back, and the living room essentially becomes an open-air porch running through the center of the house. On cooler nights or rainy days, you close it up, and it behaves like a fully enclosed modern home. Zamor designed the entire kit on a 4-foot grid, so every wall dimension lines up with standard plywood sheets, letting builders use off-the-shelf windows, off-the-shelf cabinets, and prefabricated roof trusses instead of custom millwork. That single decision is why this design is buildable at a price point regular people can actually afford, instead of the 6-figure custom architecture premium you would expect from something this thoughtfully designed. Before we get to pricing, it is worth asking which version actually makes sense for your situation, because they are not interchangeable. A pure shotgun house is the right call if you have a narrow city lot, the kind you find in older New Orleans, Houston, or Louisville neighborhoods, where width is the scarce resource and depth is cheap. It is also the simplest and cheapest structure to frame, which is why it became the default rental housing style of its era. A pure Dogtrot makes more sense on a rural or semi-rural lot with room to spread out, especially if you want a hard physical separation between a sleeping wing and a living or working wing, like a guest suite on one side and your own space on the other, connected by that shared breezeway instead of an interior hallway. The Trot hybrid earns its place when you want the compact footprint of a shotgun, but the flexibility of a Dogtrot without sacrificing an entire wing of the house to an open-air gap. You get one adaptable core room that can seal shut or throw wide open, which is a smarter use of square footage on a smaller or more expensive urban lot where you cannot afford to dedicate permanent square footage to open-air space. Let's talk real numbers, because this is where most house design videos completely fall apart. They show you a beautiful render and then go silent on price. The original Trot prototype that Zamor built for David Kaplan priced out at slightly under $100 per square foot, according to Dwell magazine's coverage of the project. That included a galvalume metal roof chosen specifically for heat deflection and durability, plus salvaged old growth pine and red oak flooring pulled from Houston teardowns. Since then, Zamor has developed the concept into a full lineup of standard kit homes, ranging from a compact 500 square foot efficiency unit, often used as a guest studio or a mother-in-law suite, all the way up to a 2,200 square foot 3-bedroom family home. Reporting from Houstonia magazine puts these kit packages at $105 to $160 per square foot for the structural shell and components. That number covers the kit itself and basic on-site assembly, not a fully finished, hooked-up, move-in ready home. Local labor rates, foundation prep, plumbing, electrical, and finish selections will push your final turnkey cost higher, the same way they would on any build. Even accounting for that, it still comes in dramatically leaner than a typical fully custom Houston home, which runs closer to $200 per square foot for a fraction of the personality. Now here is the 2026 context you actually need. National construction costs this year are running between $150 and $300 per square foot for a standard build, and custom homes in expensive metro areas are pushing past $350 to $450 per square foot. Against that backdrop, a shotgun Dogtrot hybrid at $105 to $160 per square foot for the shell is not just charming. It is one of the more financially sane ways to build new construction with actual architectural identity in 2026. Do the math on the smallest version. A 500 square foot Trot style studio at $130 per square foot lands around $65,000 for the structural shell alone, before land, permits, foundation, and utility hookups. Now compare that to the national average of building a standard 2,000 square foot home today, which easily sails past $350,000 to $400,000 depending on where you live. By scaling down and building on this hybrid grid system, you're not just cutting square footage, You're shaving roughly 30 to 40% off the cost per square foot compared to a typical custom build, and you're getting a floor plan with a real design pedigree instead of a generic spec home layout. If you want the more traditional Dogtrot side of this equation rather than the modern hybrid, Designer Max Fulbright currently sells a plan called the Camp Creek Cabin, a true Dogtrot layout with a screen center breezeway for bedrooms and 3 bathrooms across 1,556 square feet on 2 stories, built on a narrow 48-foot 8-inch wide lot. The plan itself sells for $1,495, and Fulbright site provides live 2026 regional cost estimating, so you can see what it runs to build in your specific area before you commit to anything. For the hybrid shot Trot side, Brett Zamore Design still operates out of Houston and offers 7 different kit sizes ranging from 330 to 2,200 square feet, all built around that same shotgun Dogtrot philosophy of narrow footprint, cross-ventilation, and off-the-shelf materials. The biggest mistake is treating the breezeway or the louvered center room as decoration instead of function. If you close off that gap permanently, add central air, and never actually open the panels, you have built a normal house with an oddly shaped hallway, and you have lost the entire reason the design exists. The second mistake is ignoring orientation. These designs only work if the long axis of the house lines up with your prevailing summer breeze. Copy the floor plan exactly, but rotate it 90 degrees on your lot, and you have built a house that looks right in photos and performs nothing like the original. The third mistake is skipping the raised foundation on a shotgun-style build. That elevation is not cosmetic. It is what keeps humidity and heat from soaking up through the floor. Slab-on grade versions lose a meaningful amount of that passive cooling benefit. Here is the honest, bigger picture. We are living through a moment where more people than ever are priced out of the starter home in the $400,000 range. And the instinct is to look at prefab boxes and shipping container conversions for a cheaper answer. But 2 designs solved this exact affordability and comfort problem 150 years ago using nothing but geometry, orientation, and airflow. No solar panels, no smart thermostat, no spray foam insulation package. Just a house shaped correctly for its climate. That is the real lesson of the shotgun Dogtrot hybrid. Good design was never about spending more money. It was about understanding wind, sun, and shade well enough that you did not need to spend more money. Every single feature we have talked about today, the raised foundation, the aligned doors, the open breezeway, the deep porch, exists because someone with no budget and no electricity had to outthink the Louisiana and Appalachian summer. That is a masterclass in design thinking that most million-dollar architecture firms still have not matched. And it is available to you today for a fraction of what a standard custom home costs in 2026. If you want me to break down another forgotten American floor plan next, drop it in the comments, whether that is the Creole cottage, the Camelback house, or the Lustron steel home, because I'm turning this into a full series and I read every single comment before picking the next one. Hit subscribe so you do not miss it, and I will see you in the next video.